Welcome back right here in the heart of the Riverbend on this beautiful 4th day of January, a Wednesday in downtown Alton. Joining me now is somebody that you guys actually have talked all about and asked me if I could reach out, and that's Brian Cooper, PGA golfer. Sir, thank you for your time.
Oh, appreciate you having me.
And it's been a heck of a year for you, I think. It was a year because I forgot it's a new year, but had a hell of a year and a pretty remarkable one. How are you feeling afterwards?
I feel it's great now. I mean, it's starting to sink in, doing scheduling and things like that. But it has been quite the year for sure.
And take us through that for us that are kind of still learning about your story or learning about some of the things and trials and tribulations that you went through. Take us through the year and how it started for you. I know you had a shoulder injury, and take us through that kind of storyline for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where it started, really. I mean, I had a shoulder injury. Probably really it was bad right after first stage of Q school last year, and felt like I was playing my best golf. I finished, I think, second or third over there. Mm-hmm. But in the days leading up to finals, I could just feel that the shoulder wasn't right. There was something wrong. I had it looked at before finals, and the doctor did confirm that we had some issues that definitely needed addressed. They weren't just little issues. They were, somewhat significant, at least for an athlete. I mean, everyday life, probably not that significant. But when it comes to, knee in your shoulders and arms and, for golf, it's pretty significant. So I just said, well, we'll see what happens with Q school. We'll give it a go and see what happens. And, I could tell early on at finals that it wasn't going to be something that was going to go my way. I was trying to do everything I could to at least get, top 30 to maintain some status, but it was difficult. I mean, it was cold. I wasn't hitting the driver very far. I didn't have any power.
Well, that's me every time I play golf.
So therefore, it didn't go my way, unfortunately. And, the reality was I was going to have to do it the hard way. So and I prepared for that. I didn't really think too much of it. And then I had the shoulder surgery early January. Going through rehab and feeling like, it's a lonely existence doing that rehab. It really is. I felt like I was getting stronger, but still just going through that was mentally, it was tough. I mean, it was really, it was a tough experience. And I've had multiple surgeries in my life. I mean, I kind of lost count, but for some reason, this one was really tough. And then, we had some my family had some off the golf course things going on with my little one. That put a little bit of strain on me as a father. It was just tough. And then that's when, unfortunately, the depression kicked in. And, it was a tough battle. I never felt like I was feeling. Mm-hmm. Didn't know what was going on. When you're compounding, your child and you're compounding rehab, and you're compounding questioning your golf future, it's just a lot to take. And being someone that internalizes and kind of keeps things to myself and tries to, fix it myself, that made it tougher because it was just a lot of pressure on me to do that. And so it was tough, it really was. And I don't think I started to feel normal until, I acknowledged what the problem was. And once I did that, that weight was somewhat lifted, mm-hmm. Not completely, but, there was enough of it that was lifted that I could move forward and try to move forward in a positive manner.
And take us, take us through that. So whenever you're getting the surgery, and I know that, I was a college soccer player and do pro wrestling, and I know that there's a mental aspect to every part of a performance, every part of a competition. What was, kind of the mindset? I mean, how did your mentality, do you think it changed a little bit after this shoulder surgery, the way you prepared mentally before a match or a round of golf? Did that did that shift ever since after the surgery that year?
No, I don't think so
Okay.
because, I know 7 years ago I had elbow surgery and that rehab was a little bit longer than normal. I think 4 years ago I had left shoulder surgery. That one I rebounded actually really fast. So I went into it thinking it was like no big deal. I'll rebound and, I do enough off the field, off the ice or off the golf course that
Hmm.
I felt like, I'm strong enough to rebound, fast. And this one was different. I mean, there was a lot in there that was wrong, more than I thought. And so it was tough. And, I don't think it affected me coming back to play because,
Okay.
quite frankly, I really didn't come back to play until late summer. I played twice. I did our state open when I was kind of feeling somewhat good early in April. Still wasn't anywhere near 100%, but surprisingly finished, I think, fourth. And then I did our U.S. Senior Open qualifying, and I think I missed by two or something like that. But right after that, I mean, it was, I kind of shut down, and at that point, I was starting to deal with the whole depression thing, and I really didn't want to play, wasn't motivated to play,
Hmm.
and it was probably, I kind of poured myself into my son's hockey. I mean, he was traveling a lot this summer, and so that kind of helped to take my mind off it, but. Yeah, I don't think the surgery. I don't think I prepared or was willing to prepare any differently. I was just going to go at it, just like I had done any other surgery in my past.
Yeah, and now is depression something that you've had a battle with in the past, or was this a kind of first in your life experience with this last year?
No, it was definitely a first,
Oh
and
wow.
I think that's why I kind of struggled with it,
Hmm.
and in how to um, deal with it and how to uh, just honestly come to grips with what I was dealing with. I mean, it was rather tough. And maybe I'm looking at this. Maybe you need some more light. Should I turn on a light too?
Whatever you want to do is fine. I'm in it for the
Maybe I
duration.
should turn on a light into it. Look really dark. At least I don't know.
All I know
can,
is that's one of the
hold on one
nicest
second.
kitchens I've seen.
Well,
Just gonna be-
you can
That- there we go.
Yeah, you can thank my better half for that. That's all her design back there. So
Tell her to keep
um,
designing. That's beautiful.
thank you.
Well,
She hears you, so she's probably happy about it.
well, that's great. I have the reason I kind of asked you about that is because I gone through a little bit of some back issues and stuff in high school. Winning a couple of conference awards and then coming back that next year was really rough. What's your advice to kind of for maybe any athlete because it affects every age differently in every player or competitor. What's your advice for kind of delving in and taking and tackling that kind of mental battle, that depression head on, and how you were able to rebound from it rather quickly?
You know, well, I mean, you were talking the injury, right?
Right. Well, the injury, and then just kind of battling back from that battle. The entire year with the depression. You're fighting through it.
I don't know. I've always been a pretty strong-willed, strong-minded person. So,
Nice.
I feel like, I've been thinking of this whole thing after Q school because, everybody's like, one, it's the hardest tour to get on. It's not even close.
Right.
No tours close to as difficult as this. And, I'd always kept thinking, and a lot of people always said, oh, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And then, after I did it, people were saying, how the heck did you do it? And I'm just like,
They're like, what's the secret?
a lot of it's just perseverance. I mean, I'm 100% honest. I played with a lot of guys growing up, Gateway, mini tours, Latin America, that were definitely had more talent than me. Definitely had more talent. I mean, I look at him like, man, that kid's going to be really good. And now you're looking like, where is that kid? And he's selling insurance, or he's he's selling cars or something. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, it's here. I mean, I
Yes.
think that you tell me no, I'm going to say, okay, I'll show you. And I think, that's been instilled in me by my father. I think it's been instilled for me, quite frankly, from where I grew up, in the area I grew up. It's a steel mill town. We were all, I wouldn't say fairly tough, but we were always knew that nobody wanted to stay in a steel mill town. Definitely not now, but you wanted to get out. I never thought golf was going to be my out back then, but you wanted to get out, whether you were doing a regular job or no matter what, you still had to have the passion, desire, and the tenacity to want to be better.
Absolutely.
And I've always wanted to be better, and I've always known I could be better, and I've always known I could make it out there, and I've always known I could be successful out there. But now I have that chance, and so I have to go out there and continue to do what got me there. Getting there is one thing, staying there is another. It's funny. It was 2 years ago. I think I was playing the Ally, and I had just Monday back-to-back weeks. I played Seattle, then on Monday I flew in Monday for the Ally. We were on the range, and VJ's down at the end, and he yells over me. He says, "Hey, Coop." I'm like, "What's that?" He says, "It's easier to win out here than it is the Monday back-to-back weeks." And I'm like, valid point. So, but I had struggled. I had even consulted with him, about, how do you transfer that, that Monday experience into the week experience. And that's the difficulty. Then,
right.
Because you get out there, you spend all this energy on a Monday to get into the event. Everything. You're like laser focused.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get into the tournament and your laser focus goes from like this to like this because you have everything around, and you almost take a step back. And that was my struggle, I get in there, and then all of a sudden you breathe because you're in, instead of getting back into that zone of playing hard. But it's difficult because, when you're Monday and you never know when your next event's going to be, or if there's going to be a next event. So I think maybe now, knowing that, I'm going to play minimum, 16 to 22 events this year, that, I can be a little different, and, I can have I plan to have more success, with this opportunity. So
absolutely. And you said, and by the way, everything you just said, I mean, just being an athlete myself, perfect sense. I mean, it's all about the mindset and the mentality. And I think we all can take something out of that. And, perseverance and passion, I think is a big component of a lot, kind of what you were saying, but you segued it perfectly into this moment. I mean, everyone, if you haven't seen it yet, you've been under a rock, because the video of you, picking up the ball after you're winning that, you're getting your card, I mean, how does that feel? Walk us through that moment. First of all, did you know that you had a film guy behind you? And I also saw that your older brother was with you on this too. That's got to be a hell of a feeling.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thankful that, when they designed that golf course, they didn't design it 3 inches shorter on that 18th hole. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I don't know. I mean, it was, I told myself all day I would not look at a score. I would not look at a score. I would not look at a score. But, I knew I was playing. I played consistent. I mean, I shot 3 under, no bogeys. And, that hole there is by far, in my opinion, it's the hardest hole on that golf course. It's tough. It's 460. It's playing into the wind. There's 2 misses. You have to hit a perfect tee shot, and you have to hit a dead perfect second shot. And we had 210. And, my brother asked me, he's like, "Hey, you want to hit an easy 4 and just, cut it off there?" And I'm like, "No, I'd rather just hit something hard and see where, hit the 5 and hit it hard and go." And when I hit it, I was like, "Oh my God, that's a little too left. That's a little too left." But it stayed there, didn't draw, was more straight. And I saw it hit, and I'm just like, just don't bounce left. And I got lucky. I mean, there's some days, the golf gods are on your side, and that green slopes away from you. So to be quite frankly, the tendency is for it to bounce a little left. Mine bounced straight, stayed up in the rough, inside the hazard line, no less. So, I knew the score. I found out that I was, T3, that basically par was going to do it. Unless somebody hold out on 18, I knew par was going to do it. So, coming up to 18, I just really needed to examine where that ball was. Is it going to be a chip or is it going to be a putt? And I mean, I got the apps. I couldn't have got it. I couldn't have put the ball there with my hand any better. It was sitting up. It was going to be able to be putt. And we were only, 18 feet away. And, when I rolled it up to whatever it was, 6-8 inches, that's when it hit. I think that's when the emotion really, that's when, it's taken over again right now, but that's when the emotion took over because I couldn't putt out. I had to mark. So I got to go stand by my brother and we were alongside the water. And I forget what he said to me. And, I just looked down at him and I said, we effing did it. I said, can you believe we just effing did it? And he patted me on the back and said, yeah, I know. And so he had known all along what the situation was. I didn't want to know. And then, when I still look at the video sometimes because somebody sent me the video, but putting that ball in from, that is just, man, it's still a pretty cool feeling. It really is. It's, it's neat. It really is. It's neat.
I couldn't even begin to kind of imagine the magnitude of that. My only other question about that moment is when you're putting the marker down and you're waiting, did it feel like 3 years went by the time you got to step up, or were you just that focused?
There was a long time there. It felt like everybody says it felt like time stood still for a while. Mm-hmm. Like, I think in that time that it stood still was when I got to talk to my brother. And, obviously having him on the bag, was just, it was really cool. It was a really great moment to be able to share with him.
Yeah.
The only thing that missed in that whole situation that I wish, could have played out differently but you can't plan it because you just don't know.
Right.
Is if my wife and son would have been there. I think that would have been, that would have been the great moment because then when I tried to call home, she didn't even answer the damn phone. So. Oh,
no way.
Yeah. So I had to send her a text and say, answer the damn phone, would you? And then she called me back and, then I had to go through and, I told her, I said, yeah, we did it. And she's like, what do you mean we did it? Top 30? I'm like, no, we did it. And she's like, top 5? And I'm like, yeah. And that's, yeah. So that's, I don't think that emotion ever in that moment, thinking about it, talking about it. I don't think the emotion I'm having right now, I don't think that emotion will ever go with that moment. I think that's just, it's a pretty unique moment. And it's something I'll remember forever.
And I could completely imagine why. Well, Brian, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, ahead of more of a busy week for you. Take us through what your plans are for 2023. I think that's a good way to wrap this up.
Well, tomorrow really kind of starts. I head over to Callaway for the day and, day and a half or whatever and do some fitting and get ready for the new equipment. Looks like, I'm going to go with Callaway next year. And, from there, it's a wait and see. Obviously I'm guaranteed 16 starts, play well. That 16 is probably going to turn into 22 as I look at the schedule and the things you have to do to get into a couple events. Right now I'm in Morocco, but we'll see. That'll be the first event. It's a limited field, so it just depends on how many of the veterans decide to make that trip and want to go all the way to Morocco and then all the way come back and then go right into the next event. A lot of guys don't want to do that, but I'm hoping I get in Morocco. It'll be a great way to start the year. And then we're just gonna wing it. We're just gonna go play everything we can and try to do some great stuff.
Absolutely. And if people wanted to follow along, if they aren't yet, a Twitter account, what's the best way to stay in touch with your journey?
You might not want to follow my Twitter.
Hey, I did see the Steelers, though. I saw the tweet the other day.
I'm a diehard. One of my best friends is a coach. One of my best friends works in the front office. So, I'm born and raised there. That's in my blood. But no, Twitter's Coops Golf, and then my Instagram is Brian Cooper Golf. Those are the only two platforms I play around on.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. Good luck this year, and if you're ever in St. Louis, stop by. We'll take you over to the Fast Eddie's Bon Air.
We are in St. Louis this year for the Ascension, so we touch base before I get there. We can, if you want to do something, we can do it.
Let's do it, man. I'm really looking. By the way, I love Ascension. That's one of my favorite tournaments.
All right, let's do it then.
No, we definitely are. Brian Cooper, thank you for your time on this fourth day of January. A quick break. We come back for more of our daily show right after this in downtown Alton.